walk you through that team.
Feels really, really great. We have tried so many times to qualify, like from yesterday game and today upper bracket, and that's the third time we try again, we won. At first we lost the Asian minor, which is quite demoralizing. Like we quite down, so like we have to boost our morale up, like cheer up each other, never give up, and like there's still a chance, so like we have the never give up feeling.
It was only pistols for Dolphin. Now they've got guns. Kaze! Oh no. My goodness! This is what we wanted to see from this man.
We need to work out on like mid-round situation, like the utilities usage, and communication most importantly, and the team play. Like need to communicate more and that.
They're not going to check him, they drop into the pit instead, or the site rather. Freeman finds 2-3 kills off this USP, and he's found a 4, dropping the bomb. Is he going to find an ace? And Freeman.
Basically, we were afraid because we will be the underdogs for the major, I think. Our goal is probably the playoffs. Our mentality is like have the never give up mentality, always think positive, like there's always hope.
That is VICI Gaming, one of the teams that are going to be hard-pressed to move on. Remember, in this first week, the new Challenger stage, 8 teams will move on, 8 teams will be eliminated. And you have to imagine VICI is one of the favorites to go in that 0-3 pick'em spot. Taking on FNATIC early, who's got a couple multi-major winners on it. So this is going to be a tall task for VICI indeed in this opening map. We'll have to see how they do. We know Chinese teams, Chinese players, there's no lack of skill in these squads.
Oh, absolutely not. It's never really been about the players not having the talent and the potential to be something special, but it seems to me more the tactical side of things, more the shot calling, that really does let a lot of these Chinese teams and these Chinese players down. Obviously, another team that we were talking about just before was TYLOO. They've definitely run into the same sort of issues. So, yeah, I think VICI, in terms of fragging power, are up there. At the end of the day, this is the very first match of the major. If there's a time to face a team like FNATIC that could be on shaky ground, now is the time. The best of one, there's always a potential upset on the cards.
Early morning as well. You never know who's a late riser, might not be up for the task. But I mean, as we mentioned, FNATIC has so many multi-major winners. Not to mention Crims has been phenomenal for this team. Exist coming in has had a lot of tools to work with, and a couple of young guys in there as well, like Brolin, who can step up, and we've seen them have big games and carry them through stretches. Twist as well for that FNATIC squad. But still, I mean, I like to focus on the underdog. I like to focus on VICI in this matchup because we do have some players on the team that are pretty exciting to watch. And the question is, can they just put together a complete game? They're looking for upsets. And this would be a great way to start the major for them if they can go 1-0 and see just how far they can stretch that to make it to the next stage.
For sure, and that would also just blow this wide open. FNATIC on 0-1. I would not like to be a team facing them in the 0-1 matchup.
No, that's always the worst. This guy right here, Freeman, there's a lot of excitement around him. Kays as well for this team is a pretty compelling player to watch. He's done some great things with the AWP, as you can see, holding catwalk here against Greyhound. They had a pretty interesting minor. But overall, I mean, I don't necessarily know what the odds are going to be for them to actually be able to take out FNATIC in this, but certainly I think the biggest struggle for teams against a team like VICI is just how do you know what to expect? How do you know what they're going to do in this game?
Yeah, there's not much information out there. Ultimately, most of the games they're going to play going to be in the Asian region. It's going to be against other Chinese teams, etc. So it definitely could be quite difficult for FNATIC to look over it. Obviously, the good news, though, is they've just gone through the minor stage of themselves. Then went into the sort of minor close qualifier stage too, where they've of course got that incredible double upset against North. Obviously, North are a husk of their former selves.
Yeah, that was a bit rough, wasn't it?
That was still a head turner, right? Yeah. Like for them to get 2 wins against North. So there are some maps in recent memory, but again, yeah, there's not a huge amount to pick from all those games.
What do you think? You think we're going to start this major off in a very weird way with the VICI upset? You think it can be possible?
It's completely possible, yeah. every single time that we have these stages, the challenge of the group stage, there's always some banana peels. Every single time, without fail. I'm sure we're going to have plenty of upsets.
Yeah, and that's kind of the fun part about this is there is that extra level of pressure, especially when you consider, you know, Exist has won a major, JW has 3, I think, Crims has 2, I believe, 2 or 3. Like that pressure, and then being in this new challenger stage as well, we've learned over the years that, you know, this major cycle is not forgiving, and it's not easy. It's not as easy as it once was, where FNATIC, this organization, these players were one time like shoo-ins to be legends for the next major. It's no longer like that, and that's kind of a scary prospect you have to imagine, even for the experienced players.
Absolutely. I mean, mouse sports. You don't
Yeah,
have to say
that one hurts. Mouse sports and North, those are both big guys that we're missing out on.
Still stings. But yeah, I mean, as we kind of alluded to before, this is, I think, the perfect time for VICI to play a team like FNATIC. First versus 16th seed. Get in there quick. It's a best of 1 at the end of the day. There are some shared maps between the two teams as well, so be very curious how the veto does take shape.
Yeah.
It could be Mirage or Inferno would be my favourites, these two.
And that's going to be interesting to see, because we know, I mean, you kind of alluded to it, and it is a little bit of a joke, a little bit of a meme, is the Exist vetoes, like known when he was in NIP, of not being like the most, you know, cerebral person in the world when it comes to the map veto process. It's about as nice as I can put it. He's had some head scratchers in the past, so I mean, this could be a situation again where you see them playing a map that Vici's going to be comfortable on. I'm just kind of, I sit here and I think Chinese players and teams are just so much fun to watch, and they do the most insane things that is so difficult to read. Like, they're just those players that are frustrated because whenever they get a chance to take a fight, they take that fight. And if you're an experienced player who is not used to that kind of thing, then you're in for some trouble, because you're not going to be prepared for the level of aggression they bring out, which is going to be really fun.
Yeah, I think the unexpected nature of them, and we were kind of discussing it earlier when it comes to watching their demos, really researching what VICI can potentially throw in there, maybe one of their wild card strategies. It's going to be hard for FNATIC to know that. So they've almost got to expect the unexpected, expect the kind of pushes, expect the kind of plays that you would think would accompany a skilled player, but not necessarily super in-depth tactical awareness. So I definitely agree with you. I mean, that's one of the reasons I love watching the Asian scene so much, is because you never quite know what's going to happen. Now,
tell me exactly where you put these teams. You're pretty notorious for being successful in the pick'em challenges. You had a whole thing at the last major, or at the Boston major, I believe it was, wasn't it?
What do you mean with the boot?
Yeah, with the boot.
Yeah.
So you said if QB Fire, which is now WINSTRIKE, I believe,
yes,
qualified for the top 8, you would eat a boot, and you had to do that. In a way.
Kind of.
So where are you putting VICI in your pickups here? Are you having them as the 0-3 team? Because I feel like a lot of people have VICI there. I have VICI there.
Comfortably 0-3.
Okay.
Yeah.
You feel very confident in that one?
For me, it was between VICI and GRAYHOUND, and the fact that GRAYHOUND narrowly got a victory against VICI in the Asian minor.
Kind of swung that in their favor for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, to me, if GRAYHOUND and VICI were to play each other again, I'd expect the same result if it's a 0-2 matchup. So I had to go for VICI 0-3. Even though I do enjoy watching them, as you said before, I want to see what these guys can bring to the major. I don't think there's been enough time between the minors and now for me to justify their skill really increasing that much.
Right, like fixing some of the issues and kind of making some new ideas, new strategies. Yeah, that's going to be the interesting thing to watch. I honest to God, I don't know what to expect out of VICI. I'm not going to lie to you. I didn't get to see him at the minor, so this is like a brand new world for me. Yeah. I'm pretty pumped for this, though. We are just waiting for the players to kind of get situation out of the PCs and get set up and get figured out, and then we'll get live into that first match. You can see there, they all sat down. Headphones are starting to get put on. Ear pods and earbuds are in. All the fun stuff, which is always a good sign. That is the sign you want if you're waiting for a match to start, is headphones on.
You don't want to see like players standing up, having a huddle.
Just as you say it as well. Oh, you hate it.
You really do hate to see it.
Yeah, that's not great.
It's not a team that looks like it's going to be ready to play anytime soon. Oh dear.
Crims is always ready to play.
And you mentioned earlier, like, Crims has been one of the linchpins of FNATIC for quite some time now. In 2018 especially, I want to say from summer onwards, he was a beast. He was putting up some crazy numbers.
He really was, and it was good to see, because with as long as like those guys have been playing, you think like the Flushas, the JW, the Crims, these guys were there at the very first major back in 2013, even playing before that. So there are going to be dips and dives in how motivated and how active you are at any one time when you're playing for that long. So it does feel like Crims had this massive resurgence just last year, and he's kept it up. Is the impressive part, is he's still in the midst of that, which is very cool to see. And at times he's actually carried this FNATIC lineup when they've struggled, when the young guys haven't gotten into the game. He seems to be the one constant that allows them to stay in games and buy time for his teammates. So that's very cool to see. Bald is better, essentially, is what I'm getting at. Yeah,
definitely is. I agree. I absolutely agree. And I think also going back onto sort of the maps that maybe we might see FNATIC on, Crims is unbelievably good on Mirage. So
okay.
If they do head across the Mirage, definitely look out for him to post up some big numbers.
Yeah, I saw him at one of the tournaments to start the year as well, and on Mirage specifically, it was super interesting because you have Crims in your head. I do, at least, as like a more of like a passive cerebral player. On Mirage, he was playing against teams, and he was being very aggressive. He was going for entry kills. He was going for entry kills, and he was going for these aggressive plays for his team to open things up, and he was successful at it. Now, the fun part about that is we're not actually going to be on Mirage, so you can throw all that out. The map is actually going to be Overpass, yes, that these two teams are playing on, which is really interesting to me for VICI, just because I do feel like Overpass is a pretty tactical map, and that's where we feel this team is going to be a little bit deficient.
Absolutely. If you look at in terms of stats as well on the maps, it's their 4th most played map. Most is Inferno with 12, Mirage 9, Drain 5, 4th.
So it's a distant 4th as well.
Yeah, it's distant 4th, 50% win rate, and you've got to take into consideration here that the 50%, it's not going to be against Tier 1 teams, it's going to be against Asian region teams, some of which didn't even make it to this stage, or even the minor. So to compare that to FNATIC, they've only played it 3 times, but they've won twice. And they've beat the likes of, I think they lost to Cloud9 in the iBuy Power Masters 16-14, very narrow loss, and we've just said before about how impressive Cloud9 have been. You know, getting the likes of FaZe and taking FaZe to the absolute limits in the E-League tournament recently. So it definitely bodes well, I would say, for FNATIC on a map like Overpass.
You do have to expect that the experience is going to help out a lot. And even if they're not maybe as used to Overpass as a 5-man unit on the FNATIC side, all those players have played it plenty of times in various different teams. They're going to be very up to date on exactly how to play that map the best way possible. The other idea, though, I mean, if you want to flip side, or if you want to kind of flip things around and look at VICI and say one of their win conditions, we know the ability and the craziness of these players to be so aggressive. If you're going to be highly aggressive and you're going to find some entry frags onto one of the bomb sites, if you're going to be able to, get into the B bomb site so quickly and aggressively that the rotations can't come in, you can find your way to on the T side to really limit how effective that defense of FNATIC can be. The question is, are they actually going to have success doing it? If they get behind, are they going to be able to overcome not having the utility? And that's where the idea of tactics and strategies really comes to play. This is good news, though. Players sat down from FNATIC, headphones on. That is what you like to see. And we're going to see exactly when these guys, there is a little bit of an ops issue going on with the match, but this all should get settled out. It's just kind of first match kinks. This happens.
Exactly. Get it over and done with early, get everything smoothed out.
Exactly, that's what you want.
And there's plenty of days in CS to come, right? Like,
we have 3 weeks of Counter-Strike here in Katowice.
Absolutely.
That's pretty wild to think about.
It really is, but it's going to be 3 weeks of epic CS, and man, I can't wait. I just can't wait to get through these games. But I mean, obviously, we're starting off with what many people would consider to maybe be the actual weakest team in this entire major with VICI. But even though I think FNATIC can win this, I have a strange feeling it could be a close one here, Jason.
Feeling in the pit of your stomach.
Yeah,
things are going to be a little bit crazy, topsy-turvy. That would certainly be interesting, at least in the sense, even if they just made it a game, right? Like, that would blow expectations out of the water, take them 16-12, have a close battle. That would be some exciting stuff. Exists there in the middle, the in-game leader of FNATIC, JW on his left and Crims on the far end. Here's the veto process. You can see exactly how we got down to Overpass. Nuke Inferno, Mirage Cash, Dust 2, and Train all banned. We'll see exactly how this is going to play out. Not sure who's going to be starting on the CT side quite yet.
I believe it's VICI.
VICI?
Yes.
VICI is on the CT side.
Yeah.
Bam.
So that kind of counters some of what you were saying before about, on the T side, if they really get behind, are they going to struggle to get executes? If they have a good CT side here, if they get 10 or 11 rounds, this could be a really interesting.
Right, if you can grind out, and we know, the fun thing is going to be K's with the AWP. I think the off-on overpass is extremely important. I think it can be very, very effective having success on the defensive side. So you're exactly right. If they do have one, they don't have to play that grinded out T side to grind away 6 rounds from FNATIC. If you win a pistol and all of a sudden you're pretty much home, and only just 1 or 2 gun rounds perhaps. So a lot of pressure on this VICI defense to start things out, but I think you got to be pleased if you're starting CT side to start out the major.
A lot of respect also shown from VICI, because Mirage is their second most played map in the last 3 months with 9 games, got 56% win rate on it, and they banned Mirage. They wanted no part of that against FNATIC, and we obviously discussed this before. FNATIC are just that good. They got an 86% win rate of 7 maps.
Yeah, it's by far their favorite map, and that's very cool, because frequently when you come into an event like this, you see kind of the underdogs, like massive underdogs, willing to play their favorite map, even if it's the favorite map of their opponent, just because they have the most confidence on it, and it's not always the best route to take. So that is a pretty cool wrinkle for VICI to throw in, willing to kind of go deeper into the map. You can see the fly through here. FNATIC taking on VICI. Rosters on your screen: Crims, JW, Twist, Exist, Brolin, Zoking, Freeman, Alman, Advent, and Kaze. Going to take them on. Number 35 ranked team in the world taking on number 6. That is quite the disparity. Disparity that you really only get to see at the majors.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think most people can expect this to be quite comfortable from FNATIC, but as we said, with the whole T side, I'm not sure what we can really expect here, especially if they don't get started. I mean, some teams notoriously, obviously mainly the French scene I'm thinking about here, always start slow in tournaments.
Yeah.
And so, as you say, if FNATIC are having a bit of a stalled start, things could get a little bit sketchy for them. So it's important. I think this pistol round is going to be very, very important for the Swedes to pick up.
First pistol round of the major for these teams. You have to imagine that's going to have the nerves just butterflies in the stomach.
Oh yeah.
Not quite live yet, as the players are just finishing up some tweaks to their config, tweaks to the PC, getting ready to go. Some last minute warm up. How do you feel about the AUG situation?
I was about to ask you.
I beat you to it.
Just saw it on the screen there. It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because obviously it didn't get changed a huge amount in terms of how the gun performs. It just got lowered in price.
Yeah.
Made it a lot more viable to get your full dosage of nades, and of course, the economy on the CT side is notoriously very cruel at times. If things don't go your way, you lose 1 too many weapons, suddenly you're in real problems. So I think the AUG is just incredibly strong. I think we're going to see it used a hell of a lot at this major.
Oh yeah.
And the teams that haven't adapted to it are going to struggle.
Well, that's where it gets interesting once we go on to the next stage, because I know when we were in Atlanta for that tournament, one of the teams who wasn't really touching the AUG at the time was FaZe, and I know that was very much one of the highlights of what Yanko, as the new coach of FaZe, wanted to get in there, was you guys have to be able to use this weapon. You have to adapt to that. We saw Olaf start using it on the last day, but they were very, very resistant to it. So yeah, it'll be interesting. It's also a weapon that provides that one-hit headshot kill, right? Yep. If you're in a close enough range, the AUG, 1 hit to the head will take out an opponent, which the CT side, the defense, is always kind of lacked in with the M4 that doesn't have that capability.
Absolutely. Plus the fact, obviously, with the scope, playing on certain angles or maps like Dust 2 or long angles here on Overpass, if you're playing long with an AUG, it actually allows you to get those headshots much more precise across the side of the map.
It's allowed the defensive player, or any player that has the AUG, to be a little bit more confident in the long-range battles. It is kind of interesting to see all the different angles that are taken now that gun is coming into popularity. Haven't seen too much of the SG553 on the T side. I think that's more of just the fact that the AK is just so good.
Yeah.
Why go away from it? It has everything you could possibly want in a weapon.
Plus, when it comes to entering, obviously terrorists a lot of the time are going to be entering behind smokes. I feel like the scope isn't quite as favourable as the AUG, because you typically want to get straight in there with your AK-47 right up in the face of the CTs, plus a spray pattern at this stage as well. The SG, the AUG actually has a very easy to manage spray pattern. The SG is a bit all over the place. It does take quite a lot of tweaking to make sure that you've got on target.
I've been trying to get used to the AUG myself, playing some death matches with it. Still feels a little uncomfortable at times. Yeah, it's very weird. It's a very weird visual on my screen. I'm not used to it. I think the psychological factor is more than anything my issue with the AUG.
I was the same, but I've stuck with it, and I'm finding it incredibly powerful. I've got to say, like, for me, the M4A1S. I want it to be sick again.
Yeah.
But it's always going to fall behind the A4. And the A4 comes along and it's like, yo, what's up?
Yeah. Well, we are just waiting. I think there's one more player trying to fix a couple things up before we go live, and then we'll get into it here on the B stream at IEM Katowice. Meanwhile, over in the A stream, I think you have Matt and Henry. I'm trying to think. They're doing Avant-Garde versus Renegades as their first matchup. So that's actually, we can touch on that one too, since we don't get a chance to talk about that matchup whatsoever. We get to see those teams probably a little bit later on. But Avant-Garde, I think, is a super cool team to watch. A lot of people start to have some faith in them. James is looking to be, you know, make a bigger name for himself. I think he's building up a little bit of hype, and this major could just kind of seal it if he has a good performance.
Sure, I think most people probably have the most faith in them from a CIS perspective. Going back to Pickham's, I actually backed VEGA SQUADRON more because, I mean, you can never write them off when it comes to majors, but Avant-Garde definitely have a lot of firepower. They're increasing in terms of their tactical ability. They're taking better teams down to the wire and really giving them a good go of things. So that could be a really interesting game because I think Renegade's picking up Gratisfaction, the New Zealander.
Yes.
He's been excellent for them.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, he's really boosted their ability, so I think that could be a super close game.
So you have Renegades making it to the next stage.
I don't, but I was deliberating on it. I think Renegades is like a middle of the pack to lower tier team in these 16 teams. And for me, from the boys.
Yeah, that's how I feel about the French. It scares me so much picking a French team to win a match these days. It worries me. Yeah, that some of the French teams have some. Despite the struggles, despite recently that they feel very good about for this week. So I'm very excited. Obviously, ZywOo as a player just automatically gets you hyped up. I haven't seen too much of them yet, to be honest with you. I haven't been able to watch all their games.
No, a lot of their games have been sort of lower tier stuff. I believe that they won the We Play Lock and Load event recently. So I mean, it's important to keep it in context. I feel the same way about ENCE. Yes, they've been really performing well, and they've got the likes of Sergey there, who's this phenomenal young talent.
Yep.
But at the same time, you look at the teams that they've beat, they haven't really beat top-tier opponents on a consistent basis. So I feel myself held back a little bit when I'm saying, well, Vitality are definitely going to, you know, stamp a huge mark at this major. There's no doubt in my mind that ZywOo has the talent for it, but is he going to get the backup? That for me is the issue. That's
kind of why I actually have Vitality going through.
Same.
And I think the big reason was because I look at the quality of teams in this stage, not to like knock on them or anything, but it feels like this is a level where ZywOo can be like a single-handedly dominate, even if the rest of his team is struggling, which I don't necessarily think they will. So ZywOo for me is kind of the main reason why I have that team being able to push through this stage of the major. Some pretty, I mean, just all across the board, every team has like, there's like one interesting storyline for each team to follow, which is very fun at this point. I have TYLOO going through. Do you have TYLOO?
I do. Yeah. So my last wildcard pick, I like to do it in order of how likely I think a team is. VICI, you never know what to expect from these guys, and you can't overlook players like Ben Tet. The guy's capabilities are just so ridiculous.
Yeah, we haven't even touched on him yet. He's incredible, isn't he?
He's an unbelievable talent, and one day it wouldn't surprise me if he goes across to a much bigger team. That's how highly I rate him.
Well, that team is so crazy, and I mean, I think one of the most impressive things about Ben Tet's level is he has to like communicate in like 3 different languages, right, which is
oddly.
Yeah, it seems like a minor problem, so I can't imagine it.
the aim isn't quite what it should be, it can actually have an impact and an effect on how they play. And, you know, we've talking earlier about how Crims and JW, they're these seasoned veterans, they've won majors, they've also been together on this team since 2014, and they just extended their contracts too by
multi-year contracts, yeah.
Yeah, but the other side of that coin is, yes, they've done all these amazing things in the past, but it has been a little while now for FNATIC. They haven't quite been at that level for a while.
Since they were at the top, yeah.
Yeah, is that going to start to get in their minds? Are they going to come into this thinking, okay, this is our major where we have to stamp our authority again? Does that start to actually work against them?
I think a lot of those questions will be answered by specifically the two young guys. I mean, much like NIP, I mean, the Swedish scene has really struggled to have a massive impact in Counter-Strike, where at the start of CSGO, the Swedish teams were dominant. FNATIC and NIP were like two of the biggest teams early on, started getting overtaken by the French teams, obviously Danish Counter-Strike at the top right now. But if you're some of the Swedish players, you're thinking we have to get a little bit younger, we have to bring some new blood in, some fresh ideas, some fresh talent. And for Twist and Brolin, this is their time to shine and kind of be the guys of this team that could lead them to a good performance. Crims has that resurgence going on. We've seen JW at times, but I think for the most part, Fnatic's going to have to lean pretty heavy onto the two younger dudes on this team.
And mentioning Swedes and younger players, bringing them in sort of fresh blood, we haven't discussed NIP yet, who are also in this challenger stage. A team that have fallen from grace, I guess you could say. Used to be, of course, the NIP Magic, the 87-0 that we all talk about, but now they're definitely down the doldrums to some extent. They also have the veteran in terms of Forrest, who is very consistent, Mr. Consistent on that team. And it's Get Right that's been a bit lax when it comes to performances. I'm really looking for him to have a big event.
I thought he had a good end to 2018, but yes. In that tournament as well during Astralis' dominant run, so that was very interesting to watch. Those guys have good performances, so hoping for the best for them as well. And obviously, it's always fun to see kind of some of those legends return to form and see why they've become so popular over the years.
I'm such a fan of his. I've been watching him for years, so it'd be great to see Get Right have a tournament to remember and NIP to really propel themselves again to that level that we know they're capable of.
Yeah.
Another team that we haven't actually talked about, and you did ask me about NACS. I'm really curious on your thoughts on this. It's the other one of the top seeds, NRG. Where do you come down with NRG? Because I think that they're this odd sort of mixed mesh of they could do all these amazing things.
Yeah.
Of course, they completely choked it last major, didn't even get to the major.
Yeah.
Daps was one of the analysts to rub salt in those wounds.
Right. I think NRG is a really good team, and I don't think they'll have a problem in this. I don't think they should have a problem in this stage in terms of being outmatched skill-wise or strategy or tactic-wise. I think they should be able to breeze through this. I mean, it's just always the X factor of the majors is, are you going to struggle under the pressure? And the fact that they choked at the last major and weren't even able to make it through the minors, there have been a couple other qualifiers that they haven't been able to succeed in, despite the fact that they were, are the favorite on paper. That's a little bit of a worrying sign, but still a young team, and you have to imagine they've had those failures already, and they should be able to learn from those and overcome them. The fact that they did it at the last major, the fact that they've done it in some qualifiers for some big events, they should be able to look at those and be able to work through them into this major. And this is kind of the barometer for them now, because I think they should have been at London in terms of how good that team is. And even interestingly enough, I mean, I didn't realize that. I think they're like 8th. Seventh on the HLTV rankings. They're in the top 10, which I didn't really expect. That kind of was a very quiet move into the top 10 for that team. So they've been steadily improving, and there's just too many exciting players in that team to not see them in the Legends stage, in my opinion.
I mean, Cirque, another AWPer that kind of touched on Zyru already. He's a guy, if
Welcome back to IEM Katowice, and welcome.
You would see them on the radar before you'd actually be able to see them with your crosshair. So with that in mind, there was a lot of back and forth, a lot of drama over this bind situation. Valve clearly weren't aware of this, because if they were, they would have patched it earlier. So this
something that, you know, just came up.
Sure.
But Astralis has gotten extremely good at killing. Of all of the info as to how they're playing that arch side and on the A side, and you can then abuse that with utility. And that's what a lot of these top teams were doing. It's not necessarily getting the kills. It's a lot of it's the information, and that's gone now.
The fun thing here for people who are newer to Counter-Strike or just Counter-Strike Global Offensive players, back in previous iterations of the game, the radars didn't actually show the enemy, right?
Didn't show anything.
Exactly. Yeah. 1.6, if you look at it, it's archaic. It's literally just a green circle, and it had little dots that would move, and the bomb was flashing red, right? So that's how you were able to locate where the bomb was dropped. But other than that, we didn't have any of this stuff going on. Now, that brought in a lot of questions, at least for me. Do we actually need the enemy to be on the radar? Because we spoke already in the show about how important communication is. I think that having it on the radar for the casual fans, for that's what it helps, right? It helps